Hi, folks. We're back again today on our usual Sunday show, the Interactive Solution. And like I always want to tell us, this is a platform where we try to create conversation and discussions about things that pertain to us, about how we live, about how we take decisions, about understanding life in entirety. So that is why we always will invite people because the things we talk about here are things to do with your life, things to do with my life. As much as we are discussing, I'm learning, and I believe all of us are in a class. This is a kind of class where we talk about things that affect us as individuals, as family, as community, as society. So that is why we encourage you to come around and be part of the show. There are issues of life that are very, very disturbing, issues of life that are confusing, issues of life that make you feel that like you're overwhelmed. And here we try to walk through such issues. We try to put the torchlight on such issues. We try to, bring understanding. We try to bring enlightenment. Yeah, it's not like we are professionals, we are the best, or we have seen it all. But as we interact, we pass across, we cross pollinate ideas, and in the course of this cross pollination, ideas and understanding emerge, and we evolve to better persons. And as in the course of life, things, try to turn out right for all of us. So that is why we always encourage us to come around and be part of the show. We're not content creators. We the content, if so be it, is content that we make, are content that will help us to navigate the issues of life, the curves and patches, the rough patches of life. That is what we try to help all of us navigate. So as we, come along on today's talk show, is human life governed more by destiny? When we're talking about destiny, maybe fate, divine will, natural law, or by individual choices. Is your life predetermined before you came in, or are you the things you do governed more by your individual will and actions? These are the things we want to the topic we want to talk about today, and some other sundry matters that could come up in the course of this discussion. Those are the things we want to look at, and we ask you to come and be part of it. Come and be part of the show. Bring your questions, your contributions, your presence will help bring the juice out of the resource persons. And I know that already they are right there in the corridor. I'll bring them in as we pull all the brakes and put our vehicles in motion, and begin the navigation of some of these baffling and confusing issues of life. So let me bring them on, and as we bring them on, we get cracking. I hope many of us are already our questions with our contributions. This will help us to really make this not just entertaining, but also informative. We're here to bring about and put across information. Where there are confusion, we try to walk through those confusions. Where there are, where there are misunderstanding, we try to bring understanding. Where there is darkness, we try to bring light. That is why we're here. And I'm bringing on the resource guys, those who at the end of the day lay everything here on the floor. We don't go home with any of all the things that we need to dish out. We lay them down here on the studio floor so that people will go home knowing that it's been worth their while, spending time with us. I hope by the end of today's show that somebody would have gone home knowing that he came here not just to waste his time, but he came here to be enlightened. He came here to, and he went home. You may have come in filled, but then you're going home fulfilled. That is one thing we promise you at the end of every show. Whenever you're here, there are no dull moments. You come in here and then we lay it on the table the way it is. We don't pull our punches. We say it the way we understand it and the way we need to say it so that people will understand what the issues are and how you can go about navigating them. So come around and be part of it. Your questions will help to bring the Jews out of the resource persons. Your questions, your contributions will help us and everyone, all the people who are watching, to be better informed, to have better grappling with the things of life, the things that concern you, myself, family, society, country. These are the things we talk about. And I hope at the end of today's show, somebody will go home with something to talk about, with something to feel that it's been worth its while, being part of the show. The guys, as you know, sometimes we come in here, network tries to prove them stubborn, but we'll normally get over such challenges. Mr. Nadi, you're welcome. I can see you are all bubbling and excited to be in the studio for today's show.
Yes, it is. But
Yeah.
the only issue I have is that my big man is gonna be a bit distractive.
You
It's
have
gonna
to
be
you have to
distractive.
rein him in because today's topic need you to have all the wit around you. You
Uh,
have to rein your man in, your 2IC, your PA. You just have to tell him to calm down for you for at least the next 45 minutes, 1 hour, so that we can give this the best
yeah,
touch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I can do that. But let me see. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah. So I'm trying to bring in Onyemeri in, and then we just have to get going while we wait for him to come in.
Okay.
And without wasting much of our time, like I was telling our audience, what we talk about are issues that have to do with you and with me, with family, with society, with people as a whole. And while we do that, it is our belief that we are touching lives. We are bringing understanding and insight into so many areas where there are confusion, where there are gray areas. We put the touchlight on those dark patches of life as they concern us and as they concern individuals. So in
Hmm.
today's show, the question is human life governed more by destiny, fate, divine will, natural law, or by individual choices? So I want to start you off with you by asking you, when we are talking about destiny and individual choices, what do they exactly mean? What do we mean when we are talking about destiny and individual choices?
Well, the thing. Thank you for the. I think this is one of the. I think I would say this is one of our. It will be one
Onyemere
of
is
the.
here. Well, 1 minute, Onyemere is here. Onyemere, you're welcome. We just started by asking a question, and then as you've come in, it is good that the tripod is in place, and we'll get cracking on this now. So, Sam,
Well,
please, you can go on.
can anybody see me here?
No, nobody is seeing you. I'm not seeing you as a matter of fact, but
Okay.
we hear you, and I know that the audience they see you. But myself, I can't see you.
Yeah, I mean, this is anyway, no problem.
Yeah,
I can,
the audience at the end of the day will see all of us.
let me see what
So
happens.
yeah,
I'm trying
so
to, I'm trying to, I'm trying to
yeah,
put up something, but anyway, you can go on. And
yeah. Mr. Nadi, so when we are talking about destiny and individual choices, what exactly do we mean by that, please?
Well, thank you. I want to welcome our brother as well. Our big brother, Onyemiri.
yeah, welcome,
Thank you for joining.
welcome, Tony.
I think today is going to be a big day, the big day for this podcast as well, because this a very particular conversation we are going to have today is quite deep, and it's been a historical argument that have been going on for ages, and for us to participate in this debate is quite good. That it's good that we have actually touched on most of this conversation prior to this very big topic, which is destiny, where a lot of people get confused. People tend to see destiny as predetermined, that people whatever the makeup of their future or whatever defines what their life purpose is all woven into this concept of destiny, and it's quite a deep conversation, and a lot of studies have been used to challenge all this concept. There have been the concept of determinisms. There have been the other concept of liberalisms, which have determinism emphasizes more on that we are predetermined. That is the concept that is building up this argument of destiny, which even religion on its own have also aligned themselves for the argument that we are all predetermined before, that everything that we are doing have already been, the script have already been written, and then we are just following those scripts. But there is a big question to this argument, because obviously if we are going to even rely on the concept of determinism, then it will be quite difficult. Like I said, it's been an ongoing argument, and it's been over and over the years. It's been philosophers, psychologists, theologians, and even scientists have dived into this argument. In fact, I think even if most of our viewers will even take their time to have a little test of what this argument have always been. But I think the question for the idea of determinism, it will always be, if our future or our life is already predetermined, then why do people have to bear consequences when they commit certain actions? Like if I'm determined to, if I'm predetermined to be an armed robber, why do I need to go to jail for that? So that is the counter argument to that. So that brings the idea of this choice. This, whether it is our choice, are we the one that make those choices, or these choices, is it forced on us based on different factors? You understand? So, but to even dive into the conversation, to just to go deeper into the conversation, I think it's good that we accommodate the both ideas of whether our idea or whatever we're doing, whether they are all predetermined or whether they are not. Because obviously, in my personal opinion, which I will even elaborate within the course of this podcast, I believe that human choice is actually predetermined. But in that predeterminations, there are calibrations and configurations around it, that each configuration that you are, maybe let's use the innate part of human beings, because certain things that certain ways that you behave is actually something to do with your genetics, something to do with your temperament, something to do with how you are actually built. And then you even stress the argument even more into a certain environment where you're raised. Is what actually determines the kind of choices you're making. The man that is born in a certain demography may have a certain trance that may differ from somebody else from a different environment. And even let me just give you a bit, and I would like you to listen to this, because it's quite important. Because when people used to say destiny, this is my destiny, this is my destiny. So I think some of those informations are not very much defined, because if we don't understand the background to that story, we may even miss the point of when people say that this is my destiny. Because certain things that we claim to be our destiny are already predetermined somewhere. Because if those things, let me give you an instance. No, okay, go sit down there. Go sit down. Go sit down quick. Let me give you an instance. If human being did not invent football, there is no way whether the destiny of being a football star will never exist. If human being did not invent cricket or even basketballs, regardless of how much God, whatever God you're worshiping, or whatever faith that you're pointing your argument to us, there is no way you will be a talented footballer. So you find out that even though these things are actually predetermined, even though your environment, your neural system or neural organisms and all of that have some sections of options that it gives you towards those choices, which is part of these predeterminations of human existence. You still have a choice in between these predetermined factors to make those choices. And this is where that judgment comes in. Because there is something in philosophy, they call it alternative possibility. As long as there is an alternative possibility and you choose one of these possibility, regardless of if those things have been predetermined, as long as you have an alternative and you chose the one, that choice you have made is actually what determines your positions towards whatever consequences that comes with it. So I would say it's a very deep conversation, and I think I would even suggest that we have another two section of this, because there are deeper information that I'll have to even get involved with. Even let me just give you a disclaimer, just to make the conversation even more punchy. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I've done a lot of research about this topic. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I say to him that God does not give children, and it was a myth. I was like, I've committed an atrocity. But when within the course of the conversation, I will explain it as well. That what God actually does is He creates the framework. He creates the framework for people to have children. We as a human have now have this choice within ourselves, within that predetermined framework that God have actually programmed for us to have children, to have interrelations with a different gender, for us to produce something. Other than that, there is no way you will produce children, even though God have provided this framework. And this is the same way with this concept of destiny, fate, and all of that. God have actually provided a framework, which is what we even discuss in part of our podcast, which is the natural laws, the generics, neuroscience, and all of that. That your brains can be able to articulate things and be able to produce results and even make judgments based on the things that are provided, based on the leaves that you're seeing, based on the forecast or whatever antecedent or things that is within your environment, to be able to make judgments based on this already established framework. Even though that they're all predetermined, but you still have a choice, because there is an alternative from those frameworks. You have the options to either do it or opt out of it. So as soon as you have taken those options, then you are now the one that is writing those scripts for yourselves. So the script, the framework there, but we actually write those scripts, and those scripts we are writing is those choices, and it means that those choices is what actually determines whether it is your life, or if you give me more time, I even stretch it a bit more. But let me leave my brother to add a bit more to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You really took some time in giving that explanation, but all the best. And like you suggested, you're suggesting a part two. I think we finished the one we started, and then based on where we've come from or how far we've gone with that, we'll now talk about a part two. So having said that, Mary, he said so much about destiny and then the interplay of forces in, coming to helping us to make choices within that place, the place of destiny. So my question is, what are the roles destiny play in our lives? And then, just like he's explained, how do we even understand that these are destiny, or this is destiny in play?
Yeah, hello
Hello,
guys.
everybody.
I just hope that people are going to speak. So I try to put a better configuration about the settings of where I am, because I need to be along somewhere before I start talking. I think hopefully viewers can bear with me. So I think it's going to be better today. So in relation to what you talked about, I think the context for me, the context is about what our choices are determined by faith. Is human life guided by faith, which is also seen as destiny or natural law, or by our individual choices, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, based on that context, I think destiny depends on how we see it. Destiny is just something like we believe is a future event. That's something that we believe, but there's always going to be a contra argument. That's what I said about generalization from the scientific perspective, because different people with different views, and also it's always going to be happening like that. But then the closest to objective, because there's nothing like objective, but the closest to objective is going to be that there is some form of future event, and this future event can be predetermined, but also can be controlled. So human life, individual life, is guided by a blend of both faith and our choices. Because when people normally, this theory, he was elaborating on deterministic theory, is something I've been across while I was writing one assignment, and that's also good that it came up today, because they normally argue, they believe in all this chain of cause and effect things, and that our actions are programmed by natural forces and then prior actions. And then also the other one that he talked about, our gene and the environment. Also, if we come to terms about destiny, sometimes it all depends on how we understand destiny, and it also depends on how we see destiny, because something can happen which is beyond our control. That's also why we have supernatural, but also we have a way of seeing. That's why this thing keeps coming all the time in all our conversation, that you can never do away with faith, because the belief, what faith believe, is completely different. And when we say that God doesn't give children, somebody who believes on the other side might say, "Oh, God gives children," because if somebody provides all the necessary things for you to use, natural things for you to use to get children, and if you can get it through that thing, that means that somebody's giving. Because we go to university to study BSc, because one certain university has created a framework for us to study a certain number of years and get that BSc. So you cannot just stay at your home and get BSc unless you pass through a certain training or certain number of years to get that BSc. So what we're talking about is natural. So if somebody believes in something, that's also the destiny, that, okay, these things are future events. We're not talking about now. These are future events, and this event can be predetermined. We are guided by divine providence and free will. Human beings have got elaborate free will, and also because of that supernatural thing ahead of us and below us and by the side of us, we are always being guided by this particular divine providence that might determine some things that could even be beyond causal chain of cause and effect reaction, or even determine beyond something that is coming from a prior attitude. Also, some of this theory, they tend to fail to understand that humans have the capacity to learn and to reflect. Sometimes somebody might want to have a good choice, or might be confused about the choices they make. They might begin to reflect. That has nothing to do with what somebody can control. they might begin to reflect or begin to ask a fellow friend or somebody who is a counselor. That's also why we have counselors and mentors, or somebody who is a counselor and mentor. Do you think that this type of thing is good? And sometimes a lot of people make mistake in choosing something in the final outcome, because it all depends on what you are able to consciously decide for yourself after gathering information from the mentors and all of the counselors. But those counselors, they play a big part, even in business, even in everything, to help us to find a common path of where we are going. So if we look at things from the perspective of the question, I think I do feel that destiny has two parts. One is it's already determined that you can't do anything about it, because I myself, sorry, it's raining, but I will continue. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, it can be controlled in this way. Maybe I am destined to play football, but how about, it's not just about creating football. How about if I don't train that side? I have a control of it. I have a control of it, that I have to train to be able to play football. That is what I have control of. And it's not about just inventing football, because you cannot play football without training to become a professional. And for you to become a professional, you have a certain type of lifestyle you have to adapt to. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to maintain that lifestyle. And if we look at that now, that this gentleman, for example, this gentleman in Barcelona is playing Barcelona, he now found out that the tempo is higher than what he was used to in Manchester. So he needs to adapt. That's also something we can control. You can adapt by paying a special personal trainer and some other things. So when we look at destiny, and when we look at what is faith, faith and destiny can differ slightly, but they can also be used to mean the same thing. Because in faith, some people believe that it is what divine providence wills, and some other people believe that it is something that involves a chain of reaction and a cause and effect thing, and the genetic thing, and also a radical view about what we believe or not. So a destiny, we cannot rule our individual choices in joining hands to create our own destiny, because sometimes they say that even your own destiny is in your hands. These are popular and universal things we normally hear people say. And again, when we also talk about individual choices, you have a right to make your choice. Somebody decides to study law, somebody decides to study medicine, somebody decides to study literature, somebody decides to study photographer, somebody decides to study. It doesn't mean it's just something that you feel interested. Sometimes somebody can decide to face a challenging career. That's an individual choice, and have this self-conviction and determination that they're going to make it in that career. So I will always say that it's a blend of both individual choices and then the destiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onyemere. Thank you very much. Mr. Nadi, I ask you this now, based on what you've said about choices that you have to make within the framework of. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I want to ask you, on the basis of your answer to destiny and individual choices, on the framework that you put across to us now, that within that framework you have to make your choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then if within a framework you have to make your choices, I think destiny in that manner is limiting compared to the choices individuals make. Just like Onyemere pointed out, now somebody may want to do something, and then you don't even know what destiny has predetermined for you. So in making all those choices, how can we explain the role of destiny in whichever choices we make?
All right. Thank you, the team. You know, that's. I think. Let me stretch a bit from what our brother Emery said, because I think it's quite important to open up that argument properly, because I think he was pointing it out without opening the real argument. Because what I mean by that is this: what I mentioned about providing a framework and then making a choice in between those framework. It is quite, I mean, diverse if we don't narrow it down to the context. So it becomes easier for all of us to understand what that actually means. And then when I make the other examples about that God does not give children, but He creates the framework. It's all this under the same umbrella of this, what we refer to destiny, what we refer to what's the other word that you call it? Fate, natural law, this and that. Let me give you an instance what destiny is, and it will be I will make it as easy as ABCD. It will be difficult for a man born in Enugu to be a professional swimmer. It will be very, very difficult, regardless of if you have that destiny, if you whatever you are, even if you're worshiping the Mamun god. And you know why? Because there's no river in Enugu. But it will be easier for somebody who lives in the river areas to be a professional swimmer, to be a fantastic swimmer. Just like football. You know, back in the days, we had this myth when they tell us about the Indians scoring 11 goals, 20 goals in all of that. Indians have never played football before. It is quite difficult for somebody who is an Indian, who may claim, or who may be assumed that he's destined to be a footballer. So, what this destiny actually means is what is naturally available to you. It can be your natural, it could be natural laws, it could be the environment that you live in. Just like getting pregnant. If you don't have a woman around you, your destiny you can never ever end up having a baby unless under the unknown factor, under something that is not known by any factor. Before you get a baby, you need a child, you need a woman or a man. Look at him, shut up. You need, these things are what defines what your destiny is. But the truth about it is that the side of it that I'll smack you. Just go and sit down there, please. So
don't smack anybody, please.
Sorry. So what I'm trying to explain in all of these things is that it is within what is available to you. Let's just assume now somebody becoming a computer wizard. If there is no computer, how are you going to be a computer wizard? So the destiny is a build-up of what is already provided, what you already have within your environment. That is what is called predeterminations. That these things are predetermined. There are other things that have been programmed, that have been configured before you have to make a choice between those things. Then that's what becomes your destiny. If you're very good at that, adding to what Mary have just said, if your natural this thing is over the limit of that law. Just like an instance now, a man that is too short will find it very difficult to play basketball because the natural law and the rules of the competition will not give him that opportunity to be able to play football, to play basketball. So this is exactly how destiny works. Destiny is based on what is around you, not by any spiritual man sending you some talent somewhere. That talent is embedded in you as a human, but it is the natural law that is around your environment that ignites those things. Without those natural law that is within your environment, regardless of how much destiny you have, you can be a very good singer. If the whole world doesn't entertain singing, your destiny will be lost. You don't even have any destiny at all. So what actually builds your destiny is actually the environment. These determinisms around you that create the configuration that makes you if you're a good footballer and you even enhance your ability, your exercising ability, then you become a fantastic footballer. And most of us will say, oh, he's talented. He's destined to be a footballer. These are the layman's, these are the interface of what have been configured around your environment, your nature, because these are the factors that is also combining to make up this to the makeup of this, the whole of this this pyramid. Your environment, your natural endowment, your physics, maybe your neurosystem and all of that, the physical attributes and all of that, your trance, which we discussed the other day. Just like having a baby, if you don't have the proper, sorry, let me just leave it there because this boy's. I'll need to sort this boy out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nadi. I think you've tried to walk us through that part. And Onyemere, I want to come with you. I want to come to you on this.
Yeah.
You know, there are moments of crisis we find in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody could just find him or herself in a crisis moment. Do you need to lean more on destiny or more on choices to be able to walk yourself through all the crisis moments that present at a particular point in time?
Well, anyway, the definition of destiny is still narrow. It's still narrow in the context because, like I pointed out, we're looking at future events, and some of the future events can be predetermined, and human life is prone to a blend of destiny and individual choices. There are choices you have to make. And even when we are saying that you need a woman, that's also, I keep saying this thing about generalization. No. When you have experience about quantitative and qualitative analysis in depth, you will understand that this generalization in itself is also biased. I pointed it out a lot in one of our conversations. When you go to, and also defined what we call marriage, when I was talking before, and you will agree with me that the reason why we go to church for marriage is because it's a divine union. According to what we said the last topic, it's a divine union between man and the woman. That's what the faith believed. And this is also more universal than what faith believed. This is more universal across the whole cultures. That's what when we talk about the natural law, the natural principles that are universal. Okay, and when you do this marriage, you're going to be blessed by saying that this marriage is for the good of the union and for procreation. That is what is meant. And the people doing this marriage did not invent themselves, did not make themselves. They were made by somebody they were made by the supernatural. And the process of being made cannot even be defined. So when you talk about basketball, it doesn't always mean that the tallest, basketball is for the tallest. I do agree that there are a lot of tall people can play basketball, but even football. But there are some special skills that you can have, whether you're tall or not. And what defines being short in basketball can be even 5.5 or 5.7 or 5.8 compared to the height we see in basketball. But there are certain type of skills that you may have. You will play basketball. And if you go to one of the American basketball team that played before, you will see that one of their best players is the shortest one. And I hope you've watched it before. So one of their players is the shortest. Sometimes it can be about the skills that individual was determined to develop developed by himself. Because in terms of what destiny brings and what you were talking about, I've already answered you, but I'm also giving a head up to some of the this thing. Somebody might decide to be a reverend father or reverend sister, and if you go through the process of being a reverend father or pastor or reverend sister, some people don't go to secondary school. Some people do go to seminaries. Not all of them attend seminary. So sometimes somebody might make an individual choice. Oh, I think that my destiny is to serve God. And the person will go back to serving God. That becomes a choice the person individually controlled by himself. In addition to that, okay, this is a program that this is something you have to do. But that doesn't mean that that person cannot do another thing. So because we human beings are versatile in nature, we can do and undo anything. So sometimes you might even, you might even try to have children and use the artificial way, and they will never work. And I've asked before, no matter how much a doctor has studied on earth, there is no single individual can predict 100% that the next baby coming is a boy or a girl. There are many situations whereby you might predict with scientific reasoning and all of those that the person coming is a boy, and you are convinced that it will turn out to be a girl. And then you can also predict that it's a girl, it might turn out to be a boy. So what we're looking at here is how our life is governed by a blend of faith and individual choices. And when we are reflecting, when somebody suddenly donates a kidney to somebody, there are many people donating kidney from England to poor countries. It doesn't matter that you have to be in those poor countries to donate kidney. This is about individual choices. Somebody might decide to improve themselves based on education or skills or whatever. That is also something that is peculiar and particular to that person. That doesn't mean that you cannot do something else. Somebody might remove himself from addiction. Some people are known for drugs. They take drugs independently, and if you follow their lineage, or if you follow their prior actions, gene, you will understand that nobody was taking drug in that family. It was just a personal decision. So there is this conscious decision, and we have the capacity to reflect. We have the capacity to also learn. This is human capacity that is endowed around us and blessed by us. This is why we are governed by divine providence and free will. So if you combine both, I think it's also going to make relevant meaning to individuals, and it's also going to help them to find the path, especially what you're saying now, when the road is highly befuddled. It is only in the union, a legal union of man and woman, that you'll always see that people are telling you, we are expecting a baby, because somebody has created the things that have to be used for that particular end or outcome or result. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, just to add, in terms of swimming, it's also about the value system. If you watch most of the swimmers, because they have, if you have a good value system, you don't need to be born in riverine area to be a swimmer. It's just about value system, setting up swimming pool in all locality. But because we are still having that system whereby we are evolving our value system, it becomes difficult. If you go through the history of all the best swimmers at the Olympics, many of them are not born in riverine area. So it all depends how we see the perspective. But I think that the blend of faith and individual choices help us to navigate through this complex network in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is our understanding that life is very, very complex on its own, and it's very difficult to understand it all. And that is why we have this topic we are talking about now, so that people can actually learn more and understand more. And when certain things happen, you can either understand it as a destiny, or you make choices that can walk you through such dark patches of life. Mr. Nadi, are you there? Are you available now?
Yeah, I am.
Now, I want to ask you something, because even the Bible we read, God said, go into the world and have dominion. And in having dominion, it is supposed that you're supposed to, conquer and have a successful life. So many success stories we've seen, and there's so many unsuccessful stories of life we have also seen. And can we now reflect that successful people are people who either worked with their destiny, or could you just ascribe that to choices they made, or a reflection of both?
Well, I think I need to even give a bit more details, because I've seen somebody on the comment section even. I think maybe they are misconstruing my information. They don't really understand my information, what I'm trying to explain. When
Yeah.
I made mentions of certain things being a framework, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is always outliers, even in the best of hypotheses. There are still odds that, or what we call randomness that occurs. But what we are
Yeah.
trying to explain here, we are trying to give context to conversations. It is obvious to any one of us that to be a basketball player, one of the key factors is to be tall. That does not mean there are no other factors, which may be certain skills and certain this and certain that. But the key factor, the targeted variable, is being tall. Then you can have the skill, because somebody who is tall can also have the same skill with somebody that is short. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. Even with swimming, what I'm trying to explain to you is that the availability of what is provided, the options you have, increases the possibilities of you fulfilling whatever destiny you want to say it. What I'm trying to explain to this is this: that this destiny, and I want to give a simple instance. If you are a very good footballer, or if you're a businessman and you don't have a shop to sell your goods, what is the possibility of you succeeding in business? What is the variation? These are the context question that we need to be understanding from the whole conversation. Because what we're trying to explain as what is destiny, what is destiny to somebody who is in Enugu may be different from what is the destiny from somebody in America or in the UK, because of what is available. It may be easier for somebody who is in China to be a scientist than somebody who is in Enugu. It may be easier for somebody who lives in the riverine areas to be a good swimmer than somebody who does. That does not mean that somebody who does not live in the riverine areas cannot go about and do a swimming training. But what we're talking about is what is naturally available to them, what is naturally available to their environment. So what I'm trying to explain to this, coming back to your question, it is quite unfortunate that for us that live in a different hemisphere of the world, that lives in a different part of the world, that a lot of us have assumed that success is some kind of magical experiment that just happens without attributing it to either the odds, the causes, and the effect, which is part of our what I've actually discussed. We discussed in other. We can go and sit down. What we have already discussed in most of our podcasts. But let me even digest it even the more. When we talk about the fishbone causal analysis, we talk about how is a man who is the president of Nigeria, how did he become the president? What links to him becoming the president? You talk about, let me give you a typical example. Somebody like Tinubu. Tinubu was a governor and he was a senator. These are things that are building up to that destiny of him becoming the president. Just like somebody who is a businessman. Alternatively to what have been published and been accumulated by our people, that people can all of a sudden just become rich without having this, determinant link from one step to the other. And let me come back, because I think I'm going too far away from what I'm trying to explain. And what the reason why I'm saying this is to even make it even more easier for us to understand. I was having a chat with somebody about the concept of God. I am I'm a deist. I believe in the concept that is absolutely there is a God. And that argument that I was having with somebody, I was asking him just a simple question, a relative question. I said, if you are meant to be God, will you be talking to everybody individually, will you be coming to everybody? If you want to talk to me, you come to me and talk to me. And if you want to talk to somebody else, you talk to somebody else. Or would you allocate agents on each individual for them to be able to transmit between themselves and their God? And if you are very familiar with psychology or philosophy, there is something we call human agency. That human agency is a transmitter between you and the natural law, the framework, which we can be defined as the divine, as this destiny, as the natural, which within your ability, within those options that this nature have given you, this is where you make those choices, whether you want to remain poor, whether you want to sit down at home without going to work tomorrow, or go to work. And there are certain factors that predetermines those things that you are thinking. If I'm going to be a lazy man, there are 20-something reasons why I wouldn't go to work. Those reasons that make me not to go to work is a predetermined factors. And I can also sit down here and want to go to work. I may be thinking about it. It all depends on what my interests prioritize. I may be sitting down at home today, and it's raining outside. But when I evaluate that if I don't go to work, I wouldn't pay my rent. If I don't go to work, I wouldn't look after a lot of things. So those things are now being predetermined, making my choice, swaying my choice to whatever direction I'm going. Same is this destiny. Same is this making wealth. If I am going to have a shop, or if I'm going to have something that I'm doing, it is my interest on those things that actually make those predeterminations that defines or even fashions whatever choices I'm making in life. And those choices I'm making in life is what is going to define who I become tomorrow. That becomes that destiny that we're talking about. Let's assume, I will give you some typical example. You know, so the person I was discussing to about having a child. Can you hear me?
Yeah, not okay.
Yes, the person I was having a chat about that is God. That is not God that gives children. There is something in analysis we call causation, and there is something else we call correlation. Certain things can be correlated, but something can be direct cause. That without this cannot happen. We are not saying that God did not even produce the sperm or the ovum in a woman's body, but for a child to be produced, those two needs to combine. This is natural law. Without those two combining, you will not have a child. And the only experiment that makes those two to combine is when a man meets a woman, and that is the only process to produce a child. So, coming back to your question, like the question I asked that certain individual, which I want to make it I want to divert a bit more so that the conversation becomes even more interesting. Because when some of us go to churches and we are promised that God will give us children and this and that, without considering this biological attribute towards making children, because without this biological attribute, children cannot be produced. So then I was asking the same person a similar question. I said to them, if you think that it's God that gives children, sorry, I'm diverting a bit. I said, if you really think that it's God, because we have to break this down for everybody to understand it. I asked him a simple question. I said, if it is God that gives children, if you have a daughter and they come back tomorrow pregnant, and you ask them, how do you get this child? He said, it's God that gave me this child. Would you accept that? Would you not ask him, get me the person that got you pregnant? So that actually means that there are certain things which has to work with a certain framework. We are not in any argument that God does not provide this framework. If you're hungry in your house today, God has produced the raw materials, the soil for you to plant those crops or plant those seeds for them to yield fruit for you to eat. If you sit down and think that God is going to go and plant those trees and give you those crops that for you to eat, you're just going to be wasting your time. because God have given you the framework. God have designed those framework. It is up to you to make those choices, and from those choices you are making, that is where your destiny lies. Thank you, Mr. T, if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you've done justice to that. Thank you.
I'm still going to add, but continue.
No, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think it's also nice that you acknowledge the power of God and then what God is able to do. And also it's very important that you cannot, even when your daughter tells you about pregnancy, you know that it is not by magic. It is somebody, we all, mature human should know that the pregnancy came from somewhere. That's also acknowledgement that it's not just about having a child. It's not just only, this is something that causal effect is always missing through that literature bias I keep mentioning. But then you also have to think that there is this individual, apart from, without that individual, the presence of that individual, not just the ovary and then the other one, without the presence of those two individuals, there's nothing like that. And there are different types of children. One is human children, one is animal children. There are different types of children. So whichever way we come about it, you can always see that this is a blend. Our life is governed by a blend of individual choices and faith. And look at it critically. Some causal effect and causal analysis can also miss that we have the capacity to learn, we have the capacity to improve, we have the capacity to fail. Many successful people are individuals who have failed in many fronts, but they keep pushing because they have the self-conviction that they want to try more, and the more they try, the more they fail, and then at one point they succeeded. That you have a lot of money, that you have 200 million pounds at your disposal now, doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. That is the side this causal effect is always missing. And then if you look at having many options about whether we are governed by individual choices or not. These choices are made by a power beyond us. There are choices you cannot choose. You can only choose available choices, and those choices are there. But also, in the process of searching and getting assistance, getting mentorship, and getting counseling, the process can change. Somebody might decide. Many people who have learned business have decided to order successful ventures. It's not true. It's not always true that when you learn or how to do business for 8 years or 7 years that you must become a businessman. So you can make choice. That is what we're talking about. Individual choices. You have the power to make some choices, but also we can never neglect those forces behind that is always parting us and saying, don't get tired. That's divine providence. To believe in divine, to ascribe natural things, that divinely endowed thing that you're seeing to natural law, it also corroborates our point of view that divine and scientific are linked. Faith and scientific are linked, because the faith is always promoting scientific by doing a lot of other things in society to make sure that those scientific things come into manifestation. That is what we're saying. Our life is always going to be governed by a blend of individual choices and faith. Thank you.
Thank you. My question to you now is this. Against the background of what you've just said now,
yeah,
we've seen situations where people have tried to have children, women, they've tried to have children, and then they've prayed all they could. They've done all the rituals they could do, and at the end of the day, these things do not happen. So, would you say that prayer and then rituals are still effective? And if destiny has
prayer and what? I can't hear you. Prayer and what?
I'm asking if prayer and all the rituals people do are in place. What then is the role of destiny in all this?
What we're saying, the question is so funny.
If you need to pray for something that has already been set in time and space, why do you need to pray when certain things are already set in time and in space?
Yeah, that's why I said, and I keep saying that our life is governed by a blend of individual choices and faith. That something is set. I'm not saying that everything is completely set in place. No, I'm saying that every individual that you're even exploring other scientific alternatives is even miracle by itself. So it's even connected to faith. So what I'm saying is that you can prayer doesn't mean that you're going to sleep and not do anything, because even the work of the whole text of the religion or the faith text in all the contexts around the world is guided by one statement, that prayer without work is not effective. When you pray, you have to associate it with a good conscious decision, and that's so aligns with the individual choices we're making. So if you make a bad choice after prayer, you're not going to be blaming anybody. You understand? You're going to blame yourself, because we also have responsibility to be responsible for our actions. So when you do something wrong, acknowledging that you did something not right is not about acknowledging or pushing everything towards prayer. Prayer has its own work, and we have mentioned this thing elaborately before. But then you have a particular thing that you have to do on yourself. You have to work on yourself. That's why I say that if something doesn't work, you can also decide and take some actions to make it work. This is that in choices you have to make. You have to make the right choices, because many people have also failed because they didn't ascribe to making the right choices. So everybody has their own unique blessing, and then that is not something that you can take away from somebody. And I've also seen many occasions where those people didn't go to hospital, they were praying, and then it happened. Faith has shown this to be true, and sometimes you might disagree because of the context we are, but then it's up to you. You cannot disagree that we have the capacity to improve ourselves, and then we have the capacity to make alternative choices and make individual choices that suits us, and that's what brings us closer to making sure that our prayer aligns with good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Mr. Anna, the final question for you for today, and it is coming against the background of one of the answers in your attempt to explain your position on destiny. Are you there, Mr. Anna?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, you were talking about destiny in alignment and within the context of environment, like somebody who is born in a certain locality may not be a good in certain aspects of life, like compared to other people who are born. For example, somebody who is born within a landlocked place cannot be as good a swimmer as somebody who is born in the riverine area. Can we take it like that? Okay, an example, somebody who is born maybe in Africa or in Nigeria or in Enugu, for example, may not have access to certain things like somebody who is born in America or in the UK. Can you now use that to say that your destiny can stretch or can change as you change locations?
Well, thank you, DT. I think your question, this very last question, will help me to even diversize this conversation even more. You know, when I was explaining about the configurations, the configuration between this natural law and the hierarchy that brings it down to your individual choices. It has different branches and different facets. But to even explain it further, I want to relate to what our brother Onyemeri have just said about when you asked him a question about people who have prayed for years to have children and they didn't. You know, I want to give him a different picture of that same argument, because I think what most religious people do most of the time is what they call it consensus bias, where they want to join forces just to be part of these things You know, when people are winning, you be part of them to become part of the winner. Because the argument would have been, if people walk and don't pray, do they still succeed? If they do succeed, then you ask a different aspect of that same question. Do people succeed without walking if they pray? So if those two questions are properly answered, then you will know which one is the principal component, which one actually provides success. That you are attaching prayers to hard work. It's just you intentionally coinciding to some other objects in order to make yourself viable. So, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. And I'm not saying that prayers are not very important. It is. But there is the aspect of things that prayers actually helps, which part of the things that I've mentioned in our other podcasts, which is the psychological aspect of the human energy. But when you want to attach prayers to pragmatic things like actions, in most cases, it cannot stand any basic argument. Because let me give him a good instance. When you are mentioning about a woman that haven't conceived that have been praying, imagine that some woman is born in China. In China, people don't pray. And then it becomes even a very unrelatable conversation to assume that somebody in Nigeria who is claiming to have a personal relationship with a man that creates this framework, which is the God or the entity that creates this framework, the person may be asking for this child, for these children, or for these babies for 50 years and haven't got a child. And a woman in China who doesn't even believe in God. As we speak now, China is known atheist community, an atheist country that doesn't believe in God. And then the woman will just go into a theater or a hospital and they go and do the, what do you call it? Is it the IVF? And then they have the baby the next day. And then the other woman is still praying for 20 years and 50 years, and God still did not give him a child. So if you are critically thinker, you will find out that the problem is the person is not actually looking at the main factor. Because the main factor is what makes people to conceive is nothing to do with all the spiritual and what bra that we talk in Africa. It is a biological thing which needs biological solution, which needs to approach the natural law. There may be in a man, there are certain organisms in that human body that is not working properly. That needs to be fixed. And once those things are fixed, or once those things are being augmented, then the person will be able to have children, which is part of this idea of this IVF and all of these, which have evolved science to a different level. So what am I trying to explain in all of these things? Destiny, faith. I believe that God. I believe in God. I'm not a believer. I believe that God Himself have devised a hierarchy of this framework, and that hierarchy starts from He created the raw materials. And then within that raw materials, He has given us agencies, human agencies, to be able to interpret those raw materials to our own good, to make credible choices with these raw materials for it to fall back to our own benefit. If we have failed to do all of those things and we are relying that we are some kind of have a magnet from the horizon that makes us do whatever we are doing, and that hierarchy even builds the argument. I want to highlight a little bit something to you. Do you know that a man who is athletical in nature, that naturally his temperament or his way of natural gene is built athletically, he may not be able to, because there is no available football, he may end up playing cricket because that is his nature. So if you limit that man that is only him playing football, that is his destiny, that means you don't even know all the details, because the main details is the athletical biology of that human being that can perform, that can run faster, or can be very smart to to figure out things quicker than the others and be able to dribble others. That is the main source of that destiny. Whatever interface that you're seeing is actually as a result of certain choices that he has made within himself, because he could be very, very athletic as well, and then he end up becoming a pastor. You know, the other day when we were having a conversations like this, when I was shouting about somebody moving from being a medical doctor to become a pastor. That argument may not be more clearer if this conversation is not coming. So the talent that we have could be being able to learn those plants, being able, that destiny is that innate, that's in trance that have been given to us biologically, which has got his lineage, which have got its correlation to your nature, to the nature of your mother, to the nature of your father, that transmitted those nature to yourself, and you being able to harness those features that you have inherited, mostly maybe from your biology, which that same biology, don't forget that he also is linked to a creator who created it from the initial. So the links goes in that hierarchy till it comes to you, and the decision you're making today affects how that hierarchy will go moving downwards. Maybe moving to your children. If you're born from a poor family, I'll give you instances with ourselves, Mr. T. You know where most of us are coming from. You know our family background. You know, all of these things. So some of these things are basic choices that we have made over the years. And those choices are the things that is available to us. And the certain kind of choices I'm making as a man from Nigeria. A man in the UK may not make the same choices. A man in the UK may not be thinking that it's a good choice to leave the UK to go to Nigeria to live. And don't forget that those choices, those optional choices that you're making, is actually affecting the direction of your destiny. Because there is a high possibility that I could have been in Nigeria and be a very fantastic lawyer. And somebody may argue that that is my destiny, but I'm here now in the UK having a podcast, which may also, this podcast may also be linked to a certain trance that I have, that I was not able to harness in Nigeria. But now it's still in me, it's still innate in me, and I'm still using it to be part of this podcast, just like an actress, just like, things like that. So my final thoughts in all of these things, we have a choice. God have provided the spreadsheet. It is us that write those scripts. Whatever thing you're writing on those scripts is what defines your personality, your destiny, your whatever you want to refer it to become. In our context, in an African context, they tell you if you close your shops, there is no way you will welcome customers. So the more we start writing the right scripts of our lives, and not depending that there's some supernatural magnet that is magically, swaying us to a certain destiny. That may be argued. There are substance of truth in it, because, like I said, it's all configured in the same line of configuration, but it's all depends on the choices you make that actually narrow you down to the path that becomes your future. Thank you very much, Mr. T.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Oye Mary, finally for you, and then I will we'll just round off quickly.
Okay.
We've seen so much advances in science and technology, and all the things that are happening now that hitherto were not the case. Now, in view of that, could you say that this is part of the things that were hidden in destiny, free will, natural law, and divine law? And given that,
sorry, speak louder. I can hear you. Speak a little bit louder, please.
I said we have seen the recent development in science and technology. A whole lot of things are happening now. That people go through IVF, surrogate parenting, and all those, and they are able to get children. Now, my question is this: do you think that these things are part of destiny, some of the things that were hidden in faith, divine will, and natural law?
No, the question is our life, human life, more guided by faith or faith or destiny, which is also ascribed as faith or natural law, or by individual choices? And my answer is that it is a blend. Our life is guided by a blend of both faith and individual choices. Most of these things our brother highlighted was just a confirmation of this thing I'm telling you. It just keep more or less like repeating the same thing all over again. And I said also that when we talk about China, we can only talk about China today, that when you go to China, you're highly likely going to become a scientist, because China has made a conscious decision. This conscious decision to reposition their country, it is not something made by somebody who is still fighting corruption or doing all this. Anybody can just be doing whatever they're doing, but one day some people, China was the same thing, a replica of what was happening in our country before. A lot of corruptions, a lot of embezzlements here and there. But someday, a few gentlemen decided that they're going to toe a different path. They're going to toe a different path. So, when we talk about surrogate or IBF, we also have to give acknowledgement to the person who gave us the brain to be able to manufacture this. Because without the human capacity in the brain, which is made by the supernatural, we cannot manufacture this. And if you go through maybe the Christian side, if you go through the Bible, you will also see that it was always mentioning that God has given us everything, that we are a perfect human being created by God. And the question is never whether destiny, the question is no longer focused on destiny or just particular, whether China or, no. The question is focused whether our life is guided by destiny or by individual choices. And then you see how the individual choices we make is always being highlighted. It's always being highlighted, because I was also saying that China reflection is not captured in causal theory or causal analysis. The cause and effect theory has got a lot of downsides. And then when you talk about consensus bias, I also mentioned about confirmation bias, which also we tend to use it in a very oversimplified way. When you use it in one context, we also have to apply it in different contexts and see how it works. It's not just about saying consensus bias, because this even consensus bias is bias in itself, because some people are already excluded through the theory of confirmation bias. I mentioned it before. So what we're saying here is that if you go through the history, if you go through our history, let's update us here. Chinese people, there's this religion called Confucianism, Taoism, and then Buddhism. It's more common in China. We're talking about what are the principles they promote. Go and make a research later and read about what principles they promote. They promote ethical behaviors. They promote righteousness. They promote equity. They promote fairness. And that you are not applying those principles into action, it's not the problem of America or the problem of China. So that's what I keep saying. We have already been blessed. Something is out there, for the world is out there, and we cannot say that science brought the world. It's completely impossible for any reasonable individual to say that the world is brought by science. But they can also argue their own way. But also, because I have done this back and forth quantitative and qualitative analysis, I keep saying that all these theories, they have their downsides. So when you talk about destiny, you have to see prayer. Prayer strengthens you. That somebody who is even a scientist is studying, like somebody who is going to take a medical exam, or who is going to take an exam for nurse, is studying and suddenly starts praying and say, God, please help me to have a retentive memory in my studies. That doesn't mean that the person is not going to read. Are you getting me? The person is just getting that strength, because prayer strengthens. Prayer is like a balm. Prayer is like a fortification to you for those who believe. And if you don't believe, you can never understand the power of prayers. That's what I'm saying. So whether we talk about it from today or not, it's impossible for one to understand the implications of prayer if you don't believe. Prayer works with faith. It's not about, you can't turn around and say, God, please, I want to have a retentive memory. I want to remember everything I read. And you will see, because you believe, it will start working. Remember that the word of to walk is to pray was invented by Christians. It was the Benedictine religious group that invented to walk is to pray. This is what they preach to people. It's not that somebody who is praying is not walking, or somebody who is praying is not exploring the word or trying to make use of everything available. China 4 years ago was discriminated, was not recognized as anything, but they reflected, they learned, because it's learning. If you don't learn, how can you improve? They improved. These are also something that cause and effect theory are not capturing. They're not telling us. I don't normally get involved with all, because I know a lot of downsides about all these theories. They impose on us. So when you're using a theory, first of all, check the downside. Start from the downside, and then you can see that these things are also these theories are also imposed, somewhat imposed on us. And then when we use it, we don't have to be using it as if it is the final decision. No, you also have to acknowledge the good side and bad side. But I'm telling you that when we learn something and when we improve, when we begin to say, okay, I want to reflect on my past mistakes, these are some decisions I want to make. And in these decisions, I really need to get through some other things. So somebody might, in that process, somebody who believes, might start to pray. But we're not talking about prayers here now. We're talking about destiny, and we're talking about whether our life is guided or governed by destiny, which is seen as faith or natural law, or individual choices. And I'm saying that our life is guided by a blend of both. So we have power. There's the power of free will activated in us through the divine providence. But then, if you the problem with all these things we're talking about all the time, my brother mentioned about Christian, you can see that most of the problems he's always highlighting, and he keeps saying the same thing all over again, is because it's lack of living by example. You are a Christian, but you're not implementing the principle of a Christian or living as an exemplary Christian. That's not Christianity. You have to live as a perfect example of what you believe, and that's what China is doing today. So they have different religions, and China is believing in those religions because they don't believe in themselves. And you don't have to believe in Jesus or God. There are traditional believers. I've mentioned it many times that we're not going to negate the fact that traditional believers have what they believe. They have contributed in their own way. There are Muslims. I'm not going to say that Christianity is superior to Muslim. That would be an oversimplified and naive way of putting things. No, I'm also going to put the principle of equity and fairness, which the Christianity is promoting, which is treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated. That's the equity, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. These things are applicable in all across all religions. It's not about being a Christian, because if the Bible says that towards the last day, those who are not practicing what I teach them to practice will not see the kingdom of God. So it's just about understanding the nuances in Christianity, not just to be thinking that everybody is the same. Not all pastors are not the same. All priests are not the same. There are bad ones, there are good ones. But also, we don't have to forget the good side of what is happening in that faith side. So if you bring it back and forward, destiny, IBM is still a destiny in a bigger way, because IBM or whatever, or surrogate, is still the power activated in the individual brain, created by God. Without God creating human beings, how can we have these things in place? So the supernatural creating human beings, how can we have these things? We still have to acknowledge that somebody brought this thing into the fore. And then those who promoted to walk. When you see walk as the prayer sometimes, see walk as the end, see walk as everything, and work involves a lot. And when you're walking, see walk in a way that you become a good example for what you're doing. And it's not about always saying that Christianity does this, Christianity does that. Even in every spheres, every theories, there's always the bad eggs. So we cannot use because of bad eggs and say that people are not doing things. And as far as I'm concerned, we have to keep showing appreciation and gratitude to God, who gave us the power to be able to invent all these medicines around the world, because the supernatural has given us everything. And without some of the choices we make, we might end up in a bad situation. But sometimes you might fail in something, and sometimes you might make a choice and improve on what you failed. That you failed doesn't mean doesn't mean the end. So we cannot conclude that because a successful person was making a very relevant and vital choices for himself to succeed, that doesn't mean that they never failed. You have to fail several times before you succeed if you want to enjoy the success. And also, let's also acknowledge, I see all these inventions, all the scientific inventions. Let's also acknowledge that as time goes on, there's always going to be more. I see AI, or I see all these things. These are the things that the power of creation has brought. Without creation, we can never experience all those things. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was a very lengthy one. And thank you for the clarity and the elucidation you brought with that. Mr. Nadi, in 1 minute, are you there, Mr. Nadi?
Yeah,
Hello,
I
sir.
am.
Are you
I can
there
hear you.
in 1 minute? Is our life governed more?
Huh?
In 1 minute, a conclusion in 1 minute, is our life governed more by the fate or by destiny or by individual choices?
Well, I would still say it's blended. It's blended. But they are
Yeah,
blended.
but which one is more? Or are they 50-50? Just something
No,
like
no,
that.
no. They are not. They are not. They are blended. But we have to understand how this blending works. It works rather. It doesn't. I wouldn't use the word blending anyways. I would rather use the word. It goes under a configuration. The configuration is that there is a framework, which is what you can refer to the natural law, the fate, or the or whatever you want. I don't know the other words that we added in that in the topic. But where the real magic happens is when we make those choices. Because don't forget before I finish, that you can have all these talents and destinies. You can have a quantum of them and not fulfilling any of them. You can be the best singers in the world and end up not even singing for 1 day. It's still very possible. And another thing there is that even though some of these things can come by default, there are still people's ability to make choices around those frameworks. And I'll give you an instance of what I'm trying to make. Some people are born with a lineage of diabetes, but certain choices they are making around themselves, it could be the diet they are taking, it could be some certain activities of their life, maybe involving more on exercises and all of that. It could actually sway those destiny, those default destiny, or those framework somehow to their positive, to be a bit positive to them. And also, some other person may even not even have diabetes at all, but he is not very conscious of his diet. He may even end up dying with diabetes even younger than the man that have got diabetes by default. So what that actually means is that where the main thing lies is based on the choices that you're making within that framework. The choices that you're making around it is the most important. And what religion people most times want to do and lay more emphasis on is to make it look like the powerful aspect of those things is lying on the framework. That is the framework, the God that created those framework. This is where all the things you have to, if you are not doing much on those framework, even though that you have absolutely no control. So, even though you have absolutely no control of that same framework, but they try to sway you or even pressure you to always think that why you are poor, why you need money, that you need to go to God, that you need this, that you need to go to God, that you need babies. Sometimes the ridiculous ones, the one that I clap for them, I say, this stupidity have no limit. It's even when they want partners, they want to marry. People go to churches and they're asking, the pastor is telling them that God is going to come down from heaven and give them husbands and wife. And then you find it very funny that they don't actually understand that it's certain choices that you're making around yourself. That is That is the brain box. That is where it works. That is where the whole trigger happens. Like I've just given you a lot of I can give you lots and lots of instances. Or even if somebody that is blind, or there are a lot of things that you will be doing, and then you will be able to harness those things, because God have created those things regardless, just the same way. And I want to correct my brother China. If you go to China, officially in China, China is a deist country, it's an atheist country. Anybody that is doing it, having any religion in China is doing it on a personal level. China as a whole, Chinese as in the government, Chinese as in school is atheist. They don't believe there is God. But at the end of
straightforward question: do they believe in anything?
Can we allow him to jump line, please?
Okay, brother. Just go on.
Just round off, please.
But the same China that doesn't believe in anything, they have applied all the things that the natural law requires in medicine. They have applied it, and they are doing even far better than those who are depending on God day in and day and night, and praying and asking God to send it directly to them. You know, just to finish, personally, I have asked myself this question. If I was even going to be a better judge, I would say God is actually partial in the way he blessed us as Nigerians. What have he done for us? He gave us the best of natural resources, which is part of this framework. He gave us the best weather, the best weather conditions. He even gave us a lot of human. And then what we're expecting him to come and do is to stand on the traffic light. God standing on the traffic light to command traffics. That is what we want him to do. And this is where this argument is boiling up from. That God is in control. The supernatural is in control. The framework is always in control. What is our own attribute? These choices of even not accepting bribes or accepting it, taking full responsibility within that framework, because we have to also acknowledge that there is a framework, there is things that you cannot do. A blind man, a man that is typically blind, cannot walk the street, walk in an expressway. He cannot. He needs somebody to augment him. He needs somebody to assist him. These are natural limits that is applicable to even all of us. There are certain things that you cannot do unless you apply certain law. And this is what these Chinese are doing. This is what other part of the world is doing. And once we are not going to do those things, to make those choices and apply the same applications, we're only going to be sitting down and be expecting that some magical, what do I call it, sentiment will sway our future, or will sway our life into paradise. So thank you very much, Mr. T. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nadi. Thank you. Oh, yeah, Mary, briefly, so given this topic now, which one governs our life? Is it more of destiny or more of individual choices? Which one?
I think I would say it's a blend of both. And
it's always a blend. It's always a blend.
No.
Just like you said. Okay.
No, it's a blend of both. I wouldn't say that one governs more. It could be somebody might say that one governs more better. Another person might say one doesn't govern more better. But I'm telling you, it's a blend of both on a par, because I can forcefully argue that China is a religious country. There are religious the majority of China are not religious. Doesn't mean that we don't have religious people in China. I can argue it forcefully, and then I don't need causal effect or any bias to prove this. But I know that even if you go to America, there are many Chinese who are Christians. There are many Chinese who are Muslims. So when we're talking about Christian or religion, I've always said it's not about the religion itself. It's about the principles, how we implement or how we apply the principles on our day-to-day lives and events. These are the things that will simplify, but also differentiate us from people who are not properly religious. So it's not enough to be saying that you are religious, but also you're not practicing what religious tells you to do. So China is not alone. They have belief. That belief is religion. When we talk about ethical behaviors is connected to moral obligation to do something And when we have these ethical behaviors, when we have righteousness and say that we have to do good, accountability and all of those things, that we need to implement, even though we're not democratic, it means that you're also religious in a way. Religious is not just about churches. It's not just about going to church and pray. But like I said, when we see what is actually happening in the world, we have to ascribe respect to whom respect is due. People might go to church, and many people have gone to church to meet their husbands and to meet their wives. But that doesn't mean that church anybody's advocating to go to church to meet your wife or husband. And many people have single things in the church, but it's up to them. Many people have got many testimonies to give in the church. It's up to them. But I advocate for faith and science together. I'm not supporting any of them. I'm not saying that one is superior to the other. I'm not saying that one is going to make the one diminish. No, I am saying I want to see a child who believes in faith and who is more scientific. Is this science that we're talking about that's also destroying our relationship with each other in terms of marriage? It is science that is bringing all these things, because I said that science is amoral, it's immoral, it doesn't respect morality, and that is one of the bad things they're bringing to us, and then wanting people to believe in this. And then when you preach the issue of men marrying men today and women marrying women today has been there, but it's also reinforced and reemphasized by the appearances of science. So we also need to see this thing as a perspective, a blend of determined event, and also the choices we make. Somebody can be a musician, somebody can be destined to be a musician, just like Two-Face. But along the line, the causal effect doesn't understand or doesn't consider that somebody might age, somebody might decide to change, that you are predestined to become a musician. Doesn't mean that you're going to be a musician forever. You can still be a musician, whereas you prosper or excel in other professions. I've seen many musicians who are medical doctors. I've seen many musicians who are lawyers. I've seen many musicians who were predestined to be musicians. I've seen a coach like Mourinho. He never played ball, but he's one of the best coach. You cannot, it's just because of the choice he made. And also maybe this is a destiny and the belief that this thing allows him to arrive there. And in conclusion, what is natural law is more or less like what is universal, what is accepted as universal principles. And what can be seen as natural law is like a contract, for example. A contract can be seen as a form of natural law because contract believes in mutual dependence, in fairness. And then that's why we normally say agreement is agreement. These are part of the things we do, but we don't even know why we're doing it. But we say agreement is universal in almost all the cultures. And then respect is a reciprocal. It's also universal in almost all the cultures. And then the issue of respecting elders is not universal, might not be universal, but it was universal before until science came in. But I'm not blaming science entirely until people started seeing it as I don't want to respect my elder. Now the issue of what do you call it? The issue of societal or community consensus about respecting the elders can be seen as a universal law, can be seen as a natural law, because or helping an elder. These are the things we do, and it mustn't be what they decide for us. It can be something practical that we're seeing, and also something about dignity, the dignity of life, the dignity of human being, the belief in equity and fairness. These are also universal. And then also self-preservation is about human rights. These are also universal, that we have to preserve our dignity. We have human rights to protect. So when we are seeing all these things, and we see faith, like destiny, can be predetermined and can be created. That's what I'm telling you. Now, after Two-Face has finished, he can also create his own destiny by doing something else. That's the reflection I'm telling you. That's the learning I'm telling you. He can learn even computer science and become a computer scientist even after being a musician. So the choices are there. It's always a blend of these two principles that are guiding what we're doing as humanity. And I will always want my own child to believe in something, but also to be respectful to elders, to be respectful to people, but also to be able to, even when the person is going to be with another person, to be respectful. This is the values that are universal. I don't want to see a situation whereby somebody, because the person is born in England or born in America, the person will entirely lose respect for their parents or lose respect for elders. No, This is not acceptable. It's just something that is being imposed on us. So if we look at it critically, what this blend of these two things are doing, I think we are here to understand that human life is programmed in that direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for that forceful argument, and thank you for your contribution. Thank you, Mr. Nadi, for coming up also forcefully, and we've been able to kind of do a duel over which one governs human life more, whether it is destiny or whether it is individual choices. But what is obvious now is that destiny and individual choices are two sides of a coin. They coexist. Not one builds the framework. Then within that framework, you can do whatever you want to do. But what is instructive is that for you to actually step into your destiny, you have to do the work. You have to do the dirty work. You have to grind it out. You have to graft. You have to put in the work for you to be able to walk into whatever destiny that life has destined for you. Because if you have all those things, all the talents and everything that life has prepared for you, and you are not able to activate it, there's no way you become that doctor. There's no way you become that scientist. There's no way you become that priest. There's just no way you become that pilot that can take people outside the atmospheric space of Earth into another space. So nature, which is destiny, divine will, fate, which all are encapsulated in destiny, cannot work on its own. They have to work with human efforts. The humans and the human choices and human will and human decisions have to activate whatever destiny has in stock for you. And when you've done that, that is when you can actually say that you're a successful person in life or whatever it is you have chosen in life to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come wrap up today's talk show, it is instructive that you cannot just go to church and then sit down and believe, or whether it is the church, mosque, or whatever prayer place you go to, and just sit down there and believe that all things are going to work out for you. You have to grind. You have to, because sometimes we don't even understand where nature or where providence is taking us.
But you still have to pray. You still have to pray.
Yeah, when you put the work in, and then probably you mix it up with prayer. That is, but I believe that praying is also working,
part of the
is
work.
also an effective way of prayer. But the other way is that as you're working, you can also pray. And when you mix these things together, you get into where God has predestined you to be. Anything short of that, you are just walking around space and occupying space. And at the end of the day, you may end up not actualizing whatever it is, the content God has put in you. You may not actually be able to process them to give out what is really expected of you. So having said that, I just want to thank all our audience, the people who have stayed with us throughout today. And I want to really appreciate you. Like I said, this is not just about content. This is not just about click and share. This is about things that have to do with humans, how you take decisions, how you live, about society, about the individual, about the family. These are the things that we try to bring your way every Sunday. And I hope that the things we talk about have, in one way or the other, touched your life and, given you different perspective about how you go about doing your things. Having said that, I want to thank all of you for having stayed the course with us. For the guys who always shoot from the waist, the guys who always leave everything here on the floor, I want to really, send that heart to you. And there's no interactive solutions without you guys. And the audience are the guys who bring out the juice in you. And I want us to just keep it going like that, and even do much more. Thank you guys, and have the best of today and the best of the week to come. We pray that good things will meet us, and we'll meet with good things in this week. Until we come your way again on Sunday, Ciao and Godspeed, guys.
Take care.
Bye.